Hey, hello everyone. Hello. Hi, Bo.
Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hello, hello.
Hi. And hi everyone, every to all the audience on our YouTube channel and our Facebook channel. Hi, nice to meet you and thank you for joining tonight's session. Yeah. So for today's session, right, we are very excited to be hosting GoSG. Yeah. So later on, I believe everyone will have questions for the speaker. So please put your questions in the comment section and we will answer them later. So yeah, so for now, so maybe before we start, right, what we'll do is that I will briefly introduce who we are and what we do. So the Google Developer Space is actually a platform for developers, startups around the region to learn, connect, and engage. Yeah, so I'm Lawrence from Google Developer Relations team. So as part of the developer relations team, we aim to empower and connect the community to our people, programs, network, and technology, be it in person or online like today. So yeah, and if you are looking for more events that is actually startup related or developer related, you can actually follow our social media channel. So we will post all information about events on our social media channels. Yeah. So without further ado, I will hand the stage over to Abel, and yeah, so and we can start the session soon. Hi, Abel,
Hey,
over to you.
welcome everyone. This is our online meetup since the last one that we had in person in May. So we are pleased to have DeVaris who is with us presenting about building real-time data apps in Go. Um, please feel free to fill in the form for speakers so that if you want to speak and we have a slot coming up, so please feel free to post in the speaker uh, page that you would like to speak in GoSG. So we'll be putting up this link later. And as spoken by Lauren just now, we will have a Q&A. So please feel free to post comments or questions in YouTube, and then we'll address them at the end of the presentation by DeVaris. And without further ado, let's have the presentation by DeVaris. DeVaris, over to you.
All right, let me share my screen and share screen, share the entire screen, and then let me go ahead and do the slideshow. Can you all see that?
Yep,
Yes, we
yep.
can.
All right, perfect.
All right. The
Okay.
stage is yours.
All right, thank you. Good evening, afternoon, everyone. My name is DeVaris Brown. I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called Meroxa, and I am based in New York right now. I'm here for we had just some business meetings and things like that. So, apologize if anything goes wrong. I'm in hotel Wi-Fi, so also let's hope that the demo gods are benevolent this morning. So today I'm going to be talking about Turbine, and essentially we're putting the app in data app. So what is Meroxa? We're a code first data platform that enables you to build data products using real time data in your existing developer workflows. We are hiring, and we're remote first. Um, but one of the things I just wanted to go over is the agenda, and essentially, who am I? What do we do? The current state of like using um, apps. I mean, what is the current state of data development? And then we just kind of show you what Turbine is and what we're able to do with that. So who am I? Yeah, I've worked at all these fun places before, and so my first job out of college was I was the one of the first engineers on the Windows Azure team. Um, worked at Twitter as the a product lead on the platform team. Was a product manager for developer experience at Heroku. I worked at Zendesk. Fun fact, I spent a lot of time in Singapore with Zendesk for the Zopim acquisition. Yeah, I've been there quite a bit. Love the city. And then I also was a product lead at Visco, Visual Supply Company, the camera company. But what do all these things have in common? Look, every place that I've been at, as a product manager, they've asked me to build the same like couple projects, right? Developer platform or data platform. And everywhere that I've went, it was just like, hey, can you help us get developers to build faster? Can you consolidate all of these data stores so that way we can make it easier for people to do that? And it's always the same thing, right? We're always pointing at each other like, hey, this is the same project. And so that got me to start in Meroxa. And essentially the biggest thing that we saw was that instead of when we get to do data development, there's a ton of tools that are out there, right? Like this is actually a real slide, and we're somewhere in the middle over here, to the left over here. And essentially, one of the cool things that it's just all over the place. There's so many vendors that have different configuration profiles. They have different operating paradigms. I mean, some of them are even just in different languages, if you think about that, right? And so, at the end of the day, what we're trying to figure out is, how do we prevent your head from exploding, right? Like with all of the choice, all of the different things that you have to do. And so we built this code first SDK called Turbine to do a lot of cool things, right? And so this is some of the stuff that people have done with us, compliant real-time analytics, migrate, from on-premise legacy stuff to cloud-native data warehouses and things. We transform legacy and proprietary data from sensors to report. It's like some IoT stuff in real time. We can do fraud detection in real time. Some large banks are using us. The reason why I'm in New York. And then we have some e-commerce platforms. It's pretty cool that can update search indexes in real time on for whatever platform. And there's so much more than just analytics dashboards, right? So when people think data apps, a lot of them just think like, oh, it's the visualization of the data and it's something like that. But that's so much more powerful than there's so many more powerful use cases for data than just analytics dashboards. So I'm just going to show you kind of what that is, right? So usually, there's this siloed off workflow between a software engineer and a data engineer, right? Like somebody has an idea, and then engineer's like, cool, I can go solve that problem. Let me go talk to the data engineer team, and then essentially they do this song and dance back and forth, where essentially they are trying to figure out like how they can the data engineering team can provide the data over to the software engineers so they can build the platform and APIs on top of that. Usually takes a bit of time, but eventually they get to a point where they can deploy something. And then the DevOps team is like, hold up, who screwed up? We need to figure out you're having way too much impact on the production database, or this thing like we keep seeing errors, and so you have to go back and forth, or the data wasn't as expected as you thought. And it's just like this cycle again, right? And there's a little bit of pain for everybody involved, right? If anybody doesn't get this reference, Pulp Fiction, great movie, you should go see that. So there's a bunch of issues with that, right? And unfortunately, it's like most organizations, you see that software engineering and data engineering are siloed off. The iteration cycle can take weeks to go through, and then testing is done mostly in prod, right? Like nobody wants to, especially I have a really really giant data set. Nobody wants to like recreate that entire thing. Those entire pipelines and workflows and all that type of stuff just to test, right? There's extra cost, there's extra complexity, all those types of things. And really what ends up happening is that your solution is dependent upon the availability of the infrastructure that you have. And engineers just want to engineer, right? Like there's really no reason why they should be able to. The technical folks, right? They're closest to the data itself. But again, these silos barely work with each other. It's a really inefficient process. So we built Turbine. It's our code first SDK to build data apps and JavaScript, Python, and Go. That's the reason why I'm here today. And then there's no like YAML hell or weird domain specific languages. It's just regular code, your regular workflow, and you get kind of all the power that you need. So enough of me talking. Let's just say a quick prayer to the demo gods, and I'm going to show you exactly what Turbine is. So let me this up. All right. And so the way that you interact with Turbine is essentially via the Meroxa CLI. You can also interact with it via the dashboard as well. So let me just go ahead and show you that. This is a Meroxa dashboard. If you go to meroxa.com and sign up, you're dropped into essentially our dashboard. We have a resource catalog, which is just a collection of sources and destinations. And essentially all you do is you give us some credentials, and we basically create connections to those things for you, right? And we kind of figure out how to pull data out of this in real time, right? And so we use a mechanism called change data capture for a lot of these things. If it's available, we'll default to that. But if that's not available, then we'll fall all the way down to polling. So there are no apps that I've built yet. I'm not doing some kind of magic behind the scenes, but essentially the first thing I want to show you all is how to write something to a data lake. And this is what I'll go through and show you. So let me walk through the code. And so one of the cool things that we do essentially is that we can operate off of fixture data. So I'll just show you what the data structure looks like. This tells you what the schema is, and then this is just payload. All right, and so this is a hard-coded file that we do now, but there's a Meroxa test generate function via the CLI that you can use to basically connect against your whatever your data source is, and this can get automatically generated. But for now, essentially, we have like 3 fields in here that simulate a e-commerce payload, right? And that's pretty much it. The inside of here, inside of our app.json, we just talk about the environment that we're using. It's just app name, whatever the language is. And then it tells you where you're going to be looking at the fixture data. So that's pretty much where we're going to start with now. The other thing that I have available is my database, nothing behind the scenes. It's literally just ID and email, right? And so it's a bunch of these little emails and things like that. And we're going to be working through this. So the scenario here is we've created an app. So you can do something like, let me clear this out. So if I wanted to, when I create an app, I can do something like Meroxa apps init, and I can just say go demo, and then it will create that for me. Oh yeah, dash lang, and this is Golang. Cool. And then essentially what that does is that it creates the application for me. And I'll just show you what it looks like. Go demo. If I do, let me make this later. Let me make this bigger. Essentially, when you do an apps init, it basically gives you a wonderful template that you can go ahead and use. It tells you how to pull in, records and collections and all that good stuff. But I'm going to walk through this for you on the app that I built. And so essentially what this is going to do is that it's going to take information from that Postgres database, ID and email address. It's going to pull that information in real time, and then essentially run it through a function to anonymize an email address. And then it's going to dump that into, distribute that data in real time over into whatever destination that I want. And this just happens to be a data lake real quick. And so I've created two buckets on the data lake. One of them is for raw data. The other one is for just the anonymized data. And then basically anytime I make a change in the upstream Postgres database, it'll be reflected in real time downstream. And so this is a regular Go application. I can, run this using my regular workflows and all that type of stuff. So, obviously, this is a Go app, so I have to import some libraries. When I do that, I can just do a Go Git and, Turbine Go, and essentially just start writing regular Go code. And so the first thing that I am going to do inside of, if I implement this interface and create this Turbine app, first thing I'm going to do is essentially grab the Postgres database using this, right? So this is my source. And this is where the ID and email address, ID and email address was at. And so basically just grabbing that. And then what I want to do is grab the Turbine demo table. And what that does is when I do source.records, it starts creating a collection, right? And I store that collection into this variable RR, which just stands for raw records. And once I get that, the data flowing, so once we start and say, get the resources, we actually go out and make the connection for you, right? And so we determine if there is a logical replication slot. We figure out, what permissions that we have to go get this data. And so we basically try to make the least amount of overhead, operational overhead or impact on the upstream source, right? And so we kind of figure all this out for you. So all you have to worry about is like, just give me the name of what my inputs are, and give me the table, all right? And that's all you need to know. And so inside of here, we want to actually process that function, process the data with the function. And the function that I wrote is called anonymize. We'll go take a look at that. Anonymize it implements an interface, a standard interface inside of the SDK. The reason why we do that is so that when we compile the binary, we can use reflection to pull this out, right, and create a DAG for you behind the scenes. And so we're basically just saying like, yo, this is what the input is. This is, input into the function, and then where does it go output? And so inside of here, again, all we're doing is getting the payload. We pass that in via the stream, and then we want to get the email address. And then what we end up doing is calling a function, a private function, that is going to turn whatever I send into a string into a consistent hash. And then it's going to return that back into the string. And so once it does that, essentially, I basically say, hey, my destination is going to be called Data Lake. It's another resource that I created. And then I just write it into the respective buckets. Now, most people are like, yo, dude, how are you going to, there's a lot going on. So how are you going to test that thing? So I'll just show you kind of what it looks like. And so if I go to basically I can do something simple, right? Which is clear, and then let's do Meroxa apps run. So what this does, it basically creates an in-memory buffer on your local machine using one of our open source projects that we have. It's called Conduit, and it takes that fixture data, and then it basically creates a DAG, runs it through the function, and as you see, it anonymized the actual email address, right? And so if I wanted to do, anything at this point, it's like, okay, I recognize that the Meroxa, the Meroxa platform is working. I really want to just go deploy that application. And so we do something just real quick, which is Meroxa apps deploy. And then it detects that, it builds a binary for you. We create a Docker file for you, and then we actually upload that to the platform. Behind the scenes, essentially what we're doing is creating all of the DAGs. We're pulling out that function for you. Sorry, let me hide this. I don't know what the heck just happened. Okay, there we go. We're creating, building that image for you for the function, and then now we're wiring all this stuff up together. And so if I wanted to go look at this, go back to the old dashboard. Refresh. Hopefully this works. Oh, hotel Wi-Fi. All right. Everything was going so beautifully until now. 1 second. Let me see what is Meroxa, abs, subscribe. Well, it's running. And so you can see if I do something like Meroxa function list. Uh, what is going on? Back to the. There we go. I don't know what the heck happened there, but yeah, now everything is wired up together, and we've figured out that now that our app is running, and so essentially we would just see the same output that we saw on the machine, and that's pretty much the demo. So let me pause there and see if anybody has any questions. Anybody? Did we get any questions? But if not, I can just basically go finish the presentation. So what is it? How does it work? Like, what did you just witness, right? So we wrote code, we built code, we tested it locally. Cool thing is you can actually check all this stuff into GitHub. You can do code reviews on it. And it's just your regular developer workflow. You don't have to use any GUI. It's all CLI and regular code. So I can test it. I can do all this stuff. But just realize the things that I didn't say, right? Like I didn't, you didn't have to worry about compiling your own, creating your own Docker file. You didn't have to worry about any string processing tools. You didn't have to worry about Kubernetes and any of that type of stuff. It's just code, right? And then we essentially, once you test it locally and then you deployed it, we use the reflection to get the function info. And then when you actually deploy it, what ends up happening behind the scenes is that, the data plane takes over, right? Which is, we have an ingestion tool that we use called Debezium. We use Kafka to handle all the streaming back and forth. We use our open source project called Conduit.io. And it basically does the connectors, and then which is actually written in Go. So if you guys want to check that out, it's a pretty cool project that helps you do data integration at a very low level. And then we have our schema registry, and all of that is deployed on, all of the services are deployed on Kubernetes. And so another thing that we end up doing is that we wire the function inputs and outputs using Knative and serving. I think Knative is another Google project. But you all don't have to worry about that. The only thing that you have to worry about is just, kind of the apps deploy. And so you just sit back, enjoy life, and, enjoy your real-time data application. So what's next for us and what's next for the project? Essentially, all of this stuff is open source or will be open source. And so, if you go to github.com/Meroxa, you can see it. We're going to support more languages. I think we got Java, C# and Ruby coming up next. We're going to open source our project that does the inspection of the data sources called Tricorder. And that gives you the ability to essentially any resource that you add, we can go out and figure out, the properties of that. So, how big is the data set? We can do, tab completion inside of whatever your favorite editor is. So you don't have to know anything about the actual data set itself, and all those types of things. So are there any questions that I can answer for you all? Because that is the end of the demo. That is the end of the presentation. And I would just love to answer any questions and be helpful as I can to explain, kind of what it is.
Hey, thanks for your question. Thanks for the presentation just now. So we have a question from Jesse. So can you use Snowflake DB with Turbine?
Yes. So the Meroxa platform has a bunch of different resources that you can use, including since we're Jesse, since we're on doing this on the Google developer thing, we can use Snowflake, but also we can do BigQuery and we can do the Google Cloud Storage as well. And so that is kind of what we're able to do. There's a bunch of connectors that we have that are very, very high quality. And that leverage our platform and or Conduit. And so because Conduit is open source, all of the connectors can be written in Go, and it's very, very easy for people to build their own connectors. So yeah, we can. The answer to your question is yes, but we also support a bunch of other ones, and we give developers the ability to go write their own very high quality connectors using Golang. And which is also pretty cool too, because if you all are familiar with like Kafka ecosystem or even PubSub, there's a lot of configuration that you have to do. There's a lot of infrastructure that you have to do, and it's really hard to test locally. What Conduit does is a single binary written in Golang. You can use it on your machine, and then you can actually test these kind of point-to-point connections. So yeah, it's at conduit.io. Check it out. And then we have a connector SDK as well. And so again, you can write your own connectors in Golang as well, since it's open and open source them. And we have a bunch of them that are available in our repo that you can go see.
All right, I think there's a similar question here. Does Turbine support TiDB?
I have no idea what TiDB is, but Vibov, I have no idea what that is. But if we don't, there's a Conduit SDK that you can the connector SDK that you can go write your own connector inside of that, and that is available to us.
I think we have a lot of like compatibility questions. Upcoming is how about Oracle DB?
Yes, we do support Oracle DB in the platform.
Okay, there's one question by Raul. Does Turbine support other languages?
Since we are in the Golang meetup group for Singapore, yes, we support Go, as you all saw, but we also support Python and JavaScript as well. So, yeah.
Okay, I think that's the questions for now. So if anybody has any more questions, feel free to send it in. Yeah, thanks for coming, DeVaris. It's like very early for you right now, right over there.
Oh, absolutely. I am going to, as soon as everybody is done asking questions, I'm going to pass out and get some. So,
Okay.
but I really want to say thank you all for the opportunity to speak and present. Hopefully, one day we can all meet in person. But if you all are interested in Turbine and you're interested in building these data apps without having to worry about a whole bunch of configuration, all that kind of weird stuff, please give us a check out. We are at Meroxa.com. And if you want to contribute to the open source project, all of our stuff is basically written in Go in the back end. Even though we have support in other languages, Go is our primary language in the back end. Check us out and contribute to our open source projects. That is Conduit, conduit.io. Or you can just go on GitHub and it's Conduit, conduitio is the org that we have there. But yeah, check it out.
All right. Looks like we have no new questions coming in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Abel. And thanks everybody for showing up.
Thanks for the presentation.
All right.
Thanks everybody. So if anybody wants to have any more give any talks at GoSG, please feel free to submit a talk at the link in the meetup page. Thank you everyone.